Welcome to the Diary of a Beautician. This is your host, Sha, tuning into my podcast for the health and beauty industry via my website. I will be discussing various topics, stories, news, educational, historical, and personal content. For business inquiries and bookings, head over to www.shashalondon.co.uk. You can follow me on social networks, Instagram at shashalondon84, Facebook ShaSha London, Twitter ShaSha London. If you have any questions, do feel free to send the questions to me via social media, or you can info@gmail.com. Welcome back. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in to my podcast over the last several months. And thank you to, and welcome to all the new listeners who tune in today to listen to my new podcast. So this week's topic of the conversation that I'll be discussing is about stress equals health. Now, I've put a poster out, as I usually do, through my social network platforms with an image of some kind and a caption, as I said, stress equals health. So you may be wondering where I'm going with this, and let me explain. From what we've all had to endure over the last, several months as, human beings living on this planet, I believe all of us have experienced major trauma on a major level. Some more than others. And it's created like an undercurrent of stress for many people. So we've not been able to socialize like we used to do as human beings on this planet, and we've had to isolate for the sake of this man-made disease. We're all in these isolation, all in these little bubbles in our homes by ourselves with someone, and the idea of being around someone is become the new normality, being distant from your fellow human being. We do have technology, right? We have our phones, we have the computer, we have we have those things now that we are able to communicate with each other. So we're isolated in the sense of the touch, the human connection, the original source of humankind's way of communicating and understanding how one person feels by the touch of another person. So we've come to this place where we're in this isolation, and as I said, it's caused this undercurrent of stress. And then for many of us, we were unable to work. For many of us, we had to stay at home, and the fear of what was out there, we couldn't see it, we couldn't we visibly couldn't see what this man-made disease was, but we knew it was out there, and it made it so hard for everyone to get their head around that. So again, another factor is of being isolated, unable to touch the ones you love for how many months, to see them as well. And then to know that something's out there, but you don't know what it is. It's coming to get you, or it may not get you, but just that fear of knowing it's there. Then, as I said, losing people you love, losing your job. Because that's what's manifested now later down the line. Many thousands of people losing their jobs due to the fact that so many industries was closed for such a long time. And we are in a business world. Everything is run on a business. And when the business stop, then, what then? And then that causes the downfall of people unable to do their works day by day. The thing that it's been embedded in us, hasn't it? To work all the time, to work, and never stop, right? And we've now stopped, not this nation, but all the nations around the world, from working, providing, even though some people were fortunate enough to work from home, because their job was allowing them to do that anyway, or the jobs were able to implement that sort of access at home for thousands of people. Even, sorry, not even thousands, now we're seeing millions, we're going across the world, millions of people around the world, across the world, on this earth, wasn't able. The one thing that kept them going, that understanding that they're working, they're building upon making fortunes, or just paying their mortgage, or to pay their rent to their landlords, whether it was leasing a premises or living in a home, everything stood still. But again, the undercurrent of that stress factor was amounting, it was building, and more people, as you could see, you couldn't physically see it because, as I said, it was in the isolation or solitude, but you could hear it, right, through the messages that people left on Twitter, the images that people used through Instagram and Facebook, and the captions that they were using. And then, switching on the radio. I've switched it off now, but switching on the radio and listening to the presenters talking about what they believe people are going through, and the current affairs and things like that. And you could just hear it. You could hear it. The stress level was amounting really high. And for those who were already suffering with stress or anxiety or mental health, it was already there prior to this, world event, because it was a world event, and that took and cost many people's lives. And it's devastation. There's devastation of that as well. Okay, so now we're talking about the devastation of people losing their loved ones, losing their jobs, losing anything that they did have left. And the feeling of knowing they can go to work to get their money, to live their life, to go on holiday, stopped. To be able to pay their rent to their landlord, stopped. The money now, where does that come from? Panic kicks in, as I said, the fear of knowing that there's something out there that's taking people's life, but you cannot see it. You don't know this enemy. It's unseeable, but it's taking people's lives, right? So all of that has literally just built up to the top. It's like a pressure cooker, when you put the food in and you tighten the lids, and then it's like just builds up that pressure when it's ready to say that, the food's being cooked inside and the steam is releasing. That's what was happening. It was a pressure cooker event going on. And the government here in the UK was, weren't clear. It was unbelievably the most weirdest thing I've ever seen. It was just weren't clear about how to manage this situation, and that put people in a lot of turmoil, because we spent all our sort of historical lives following these people who always had a plan, always been very leadership in their demands of how to run the country. But this time round, it was really bad. We saw unclear messages, unclear, ways of dealing with this thing. And it turned everybody upside down. And then you can imagine the tweets and the images of Facebook and Instagram and the conversations that was on the radio. Oh gosh, how can I forget the TV? Because I don't really watch the TV. So you have people in their homes overtly, highly stressed. And this is where it goes to the equation that I put: stress equals health. In effect of all this stress, people's health, what happened was declining. So people are now in a space, in this isolation, suffering with more anxiety than they've ever had. Or if they never had anxiety, it's gone. They've got anxiety now. Okay. And then the fear of the thing they can't see. So they're panicking. So people were rushing out to the shops, overbuying, overspending, and then the shelves are empty. no one can't get what they need. Other people are left without. It's been such an event that, so it was happening. This event was creating this level of stress. People's health are deteriorating. But how do I know that? As I said, how did I know? How did I know all of this was taking place? And as I said, you could just see it in the way that people were writing. Okay, the way that people were speaking through our technological, devices, our phones, through the pictures, the images, the voice notes, the radio conversations, the television, the images, the marches, because we ended up going into marching. It's like you've gone to bed and you woke up and everything's just fallen apart the next day. And it's literally just happened overnight. And then we've experienced the fact that we're still living in a world where people are still being persecuted for the complexion. Do you know how ridiculous and ignorant and so we've not, like I've always said, we want to live in this world and just coexist for many of us, and for others, it's all about destruction and owning and pillaging and so on and so on. And even to this day, 2020, we're still seeing people being persecuted for literally the complexion of their skin. And we've seen masses across the world joining hand in hand, whether you're Caucasian, Asian, African, West Indian, whatever you are, you came together in, solidarity to go out and march, to stand together saying, enough now, we've had enough of this, we've seen this before, and nothing good came from this. Okay, nothing good came from this. We need to stand together on this, because this is another disease in our world, another horrible and evil and wicked thing in our world. And again, it needs to stop, because we're all here on this earth. We're all here to enjoy the life on this earth. We're all here to coexist on this earth. There's no need for what is happening. So as I said, we've had the man-made disease, the COVID-19, the coronavirus. We've had isolation, panic buying. We've had the known of this disease, but we can't see it, the fear. The loved ones we love have gone. They've passed away through the COVID-19 or coronavirus, which one you want to call it. We've lost the loved ones just merely because they were poorly or they were ill, and they've passed away. People have lost their jobs. We've had people losing their businesses. We've had people losing the touch. Yes, the human touch, as I said earlier, the connection that made you feel one's presence. We've lost that. Okay. And then we came into the era of violence, of seeing people being murdered for the complexion of their skin. And now we're heading to a space now where we're seeing, certain governments around the world are going back in for, deliberation of who's going to be running for, the presidency or being a prime minister of somewhere. It's like we are just constantly on the go, but we haven't stopped to digest what's just happened and what people have just gone through. And as I said, the equation that I put was stress equals health. People's health is deteriorating mentally, okay? Mentally. Because all of that, as I said, you've got to process every moment and every second. And to go through all these things, every minute there was something. It took an effect to the mental state. And you can be a strong-willed person and, say, look, I can handle all these, pressures and stress of life. But come a period of time in your life, those things that you've not dealt with or digest, as I said, it will come back. It will just come back. They'll come back as a flash, or it will somehow impact it on your life in some shape or form and change your perceptions of things that's happening, because that's what's happened. And again, as I said prior to that, people were already suffering with mental health. Mental health was on the rise prior to this event, this man-made disease. People were already, the levels of mental health was on the rise. I remember from, I believe, 2018, 2019, I heard the demand of people seeking, more help with their mental health, and more, companies and businesses, expressing how many of their workers are experiencing mental health, illnesses. So we know the rise of mental health was already there. And then this year, 2020, this event happened that hit the world and devastated many lives, has then created more mental health, and more people are, suffering. And I know that usually we hear these statistics or the numbers somewhere, but it's all gone quiet. And the reason why it's all gone quiet is because it's knowing the numbers and knowing that people are suffering. And what has somewhat happened is most people, because of what's happened, have stayed away from the doctors. They kind of suffer in silence. So whenever the world goes back to normal, and I'm using normal loosely because we was never normal, but when we get back to some actual, something that resembles what we had, some kind of day-to-day living, okay, then we may see the levels of many people suffering, new cases suffering with mental health, with all that's happened, okay? So that's one thing. We've got the mind, we've got the mental state. Now you've got to think about what's happening to the body, okay? So I'm a beauty therapist, and I don't just do, I'm going to do your makeup, I'm going to do your lashes, I'm going to do your nails. No, there's more to me that meets the eye. But it's true. I like to look at the person's health first and foremost. Anybody that knows me, I always start with the person's health, and then I go to the secondary, which is the treatment, which is whatever they've booked in for. Sometimes the person's booked in for that treatment, and once I assess their health, and based upon their health, if their health is not 100%, then I won't recommend that particular treatment because it could interfere with their health. So I operate like that. I've always a firm believer that, I don't know why they've not done it at this point in the timeline, that all that's happened, the beauty industry should be connected to the health industry 100%, because I'm always meeting clients who have health related issues that they know of or don't know of. And because of my because of the role I'm in as a beautician or as a beauty therapist, I can't prescribe, nor can I diagnose. I may know and see what I can see, but I can't diagnose it to the customer or the client. I have to refer them to their GP or their specialist. So it is infuriating, and it is something I already knew when I was learning and studying, that I was unable to do that. But as time's gone on, I just think the whole element of that industry and that industry being separate, they need to combine, because it will just make things easier for the client to get access and for us to kind of do our jobs a little bit correctly. And even if they said just do another year, a few years to get that level, I will happily do it. But that's another day, another story. So when going back to the point, for me, the health is always the aspect, and looking at the person's health and assessing that person. And because we was all in lockdown and was unable to do any treatments per se, because of this man-made virus, this invisible disease that we can't see, but we know it's out there. I couldn't get in contact with my clients like I used to. So what I done was contact them just to see how they're doing. And just talking to the clients, you could hear their tone in the voice has changed. There's fear. There's fear there. There's stress, right behind it. There's the anxiety. There's unknown. And it was incredibly hard to not want to hug the person and say, you're going to be okay. We're going to be all right. I didn't know if we were going to be all right. Okay. I haven't got a clue what's going on. It was just all happening for all of us. But that's just me. I wanted to meet my client. I wanted to hug them. I wanted to, say, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Somehow, some way, we're going to get through this. I don't know. I ain't got all the answers, but I just feel that we're going to get through it. And, sent encouraging messages and, and try to stay in contact with my clients, because I know for all it was just an unbelievable time. So as I said, for me, I just engaging with my customers and with my clients, I knew that they were experiencing that level of stress, okay, being at home and unable to do their normal day-to-day. And for others, losing family members like myself. I lost family members not due to COVID-19, but due to previous conditions. They've passed away. So it has been a knock-on event inside the event, if you get what I mean. So the events happen, but inside the event, as I was explaining, I am going through stuff, and you're going through stuff, and she's going through stuff, and he's going through stuff. Everyone's going through things, okay? So internally, we carry all of that, okay? We've talked about the mental state, but now we're talking about internal, your body. The body is now reflecting that. So your body is now showing something. There's a lump popped up. Oh my gosh. But because you're unsure with what's out there, majority of people didn't go to the doctors or to the hospital because of that. For a woman, she has a monthly cycle, and then she's had a cycle, it's done. And then a week later, she's started a cycle again, but it's different. How do you know? Because it's not the same flow. So again, what does she do? Right, she should call her GP and make an appointment. And I've heard devastating stories. I even saw one on the news where an actual nurse who experienced another flow through, not when it was her time of the month, and she knew there was something wrong, and she was unable to get an appointment with her doctors because they were closed. So she had to take herself to her hospital. And then at that point, it was somewhat too late because of the process. Everything slowed down. People forgot during the time of all of this, everything slowed down. And she was diagnosed with, with cancer. And that story really affected me, because she works with, I'm sure, various different of people all day and helped save lives as a nurse. And her ability to go on could have been cut short had she not acted on what she felt. And that's another thing I will be talking about on another day, another podcast, what we suppress our feelings. But she acted on that feeling, that notion that she needs to go and get help, something's not right. And had she not, it would have been the end of her story. But thankfully she did that, and they were able to pick it up. But then she lost the ability to have children. So it's devastating, and having to live in the isolation and go through all that on your own. Those people supposed to have operations, things like that. It's devastated. So all of that, what we are experiencing, saying we can cope or we can't cope, then affects us internally. And internally, things start to happen. Things start to change. For some, like her, was able to understand herself, know herself. She was able to say, right, there's something wrong. I need to go to the hospital, regardless of what's happening. But for others, they stayed at home and suffered in silence. And that is just devastating. And just knowing these things, and, even down to, my mother, she worked, in an environment that was very hectic, very busy, very demanding. And they were doing at the time, I believe they were doing, they were bringing in more managers to micromanage the managers. I know. And it was a horrible time, because then they were downsizing and reconfigurating the staff, and all these words that they were using was just ridiculous. And it was just such a stressful time for my mother, because she's worked in this environment for so long and everything seems to be fine. And one day the environment's changed, but it's not changed for the better. It's got worse. They've taken on and added on and removed and this and that. Then they had to move buildings, and she had to take work home, and then she had to do further studies to understand this new protocol. And at that point, I remember seeing my mum and thinking, are you okay? She's like, yeah. But everything on her face said, no, I am panicking. I am stressed. I can't cope. She wasn't sleeping properly. She was, comfort eating. And then, sometimes having upset stomach as well, because you've got so worked up and anxiety of all that's happening at work. You're now running to the toilet more often. You're sweating, perspiring, sorry. And I just felt so bad for my mum, because I'm thinking, goodness, why would people put people under so much stress for a job that, there's no need for it. There's zero need for it. And what in turn happened was, through all of that stress that she was taking internally, affected her internally. So her body started to react. And later down the line, she then became a diabetic through it. Now, at the time when it happened, they said, based upon your weight and, your ethnicity, load of rubbish, that you've contracted it. But as we've come down the line and we've looked at what's happened to various of people and how things have changed, it's got nothing to do with that. It was really down to the fact that she was under so much pressure, and so much of that she took on from work. She never switched off. She kept on going. It went internally. And her whole lifestyle, which is her diet, the way that she was eating changed, and the lack of sleep, and it all affected her. The stress took on and manifested to diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So, and as you can see, as you know, for many people who have diabetes, now we're seeing more younger people, so young children, being born with diabetes. So once where the doctor would have said it was a ethnic weight thing, it's not necessarily. Now you're seeing children being born. I know a child as young as 2 years old with diabetes, type 1 diabetes. So we're seeing a different plethora than we heard before from the doctors. It's a different thing. And as I said, with my mother's experience, the stress triggered it. It was a trigger to having that. So that's why I say it's the health aspect, where it can attack the mind. It can also attack the internal. Okay? It can attack the internal organs, and carrying all of those things and being in a stressful and hectic life can affect your your body. Okay? It could bring about aches and pains, just like when before this has happened, someone came to me and I see them, they'll be clenching their shoulders up to their neck and clenching their hands, and I'm thinking, goodness, why is this person so stressed? And then when they talk to me about what they do and their life, then I realize why they're stressed. And then I have to walk through with them how to de-stress. So as much as I'm doing the treatment, I'm having to, speak to them how to de-stress as well at the same time. So once they've had this treatment, they go home and they continue to take care of themselves. So yeah, you've literally created ill health inside of you unknowingly. It happens. It's not something you've caused because you wanted to do harm to yourself. You've created this ill health unknowingly, right? You've created it unknowingly. And the trigger for me, and I personally think for many of these diseases that are out there today, is by stress. It's like stress is the trigger. So, as I said, I was looking on, I believe it's Mind, so MIND, mind.org. And I wanted to have a look at some of the statistics of some kind just to see what's going on. So from mind.org, I do recommend if anybody who is going through something, therapy is a great way to start your journey. Do not try therapy. Therapy is good, okay? You find a good therapist in your area and you go and sit with them, or maybe have like a over the internet, conversation, or over the phone, because of all that we're going through right now. So on a Mind website, I looked at this statistic and it said the amount of people with a common mental health problem went up by 20% between 1993 to 2014 in both men and women. The percentage of people reporting severe mental health symptoms in any given week rose from 7% in 1993 to over 9% in 2014. The number of young women reporting common mental health problems has been going up. So again, I could only imagine. Can you imagine like that? So imagine that was from 1993 to 2014. And they haven't put the latest figures of obviously this year because the year hasn't done yet. So I could only imagine how high it has gone, as I said, and I've been expressing from the beginning of the discussion. So these things are monitoring from the mind.org to other, healthcare professional website, therapy websites, with the statistics that they get from national statistics of the percentage of people dealing with mental health. But then there's what happens to the statistics with people dealing with ill health internally. Okay, that's one thing I've not seen. So if anybody knows if there's any statistics of that, please share it with me. But I can only imagine the amount of illnesses related to stress that's creating havoc on you. Is it being recorded? And if so, I know for all that's happened, that's gone up. Because as I said, before all of this, we were all living a stressful life and we was all busy trying to get somewhere and do something. And now this event has now created more of a stressful experience for people. And I can only imagine the amount of people that are going through something unbeknownst to them because they haven't had time to digest what's happened to them. And that's what it is. It's taking time to digest what's happened to you and what you're experiencing and what you've gone through. Taking the time out for yourself to process what you've experienced. So anyone knows when I come to the end, I've got to give solutions because that's what it's about. It's not just all about having the conversation about these things and planting that seed of, gosh, I didn't think of it like that. But also it's a solution to the problem. Okay, we need solutions. In this world, we need a lot of solutions and good ones so that we can all covertly exist together But I find that as time goes on, the solutions are sometimes just left alone. And I think sometimes people just choose to hope it will miraculously come together, or it will just happen for them, as opposed to trying to make something happen or resolving the issue or the problem that in hand. So solutions to these things. How do I sort out my health? Okay, so if you're feeling it's a mental health issue, if you feel that you're going through a mental health issue, then you need to seek a professional, a therapist, psychologist, your GP. Get to these people ASAP. Okay, here in the UK, we've got enough organizations that you can outreach to. And as I said, your first point of call you could always go to, which I always talk about, is your GP, your general practitioner. Okay, do not suffer in silence. What's happened, what you've gone through is major. Okay, what you've experienced is a major thing. So do not suffer in silence. Okay, there's millions of people like yourself. Okay, they may not have experienced exactly what you've experienced, because all our experiences are individual. Okay, however, they're similar, and you're not alone. So seek out professional help through your GP, who can then refer you to a professional. Or if you want to go to the professionals like mind.org or other organizations, therapy psychologists online, then contact them. Okay, just don't suffer in silence. If you're feeling unwell, if you see a change in your body, a change in there's a lump that has appeared, or you're feeling that you're having more migraines, or you're feeling more sick inside, or again, go to your general practitioner. Okay, speak to them. They are there. They are open now. They may have a delay, but just keep on going. And if it's an emergency, go to the hospital. Go to the hospital. That's why they're there. They're there for you to go to. Go there. Okay? Because the worst thing you could ever do is to sit on a condition or an illness that is manifesting and you leave it and it gets worse. So go. Don't suffer in silence. Okay? Again, if you are, I know for a lot of us, we've been eating during the lockdown or the isolation or solitude. Now, for the eating part, where a lot of us have gained the weight, it's not just starting up by going outside and running or going to the gym and exercising. It's mental, okay? It's not just the eating. It's a mental thing, right? So you've got to get your mind right as well as doing the exercise. This is the thing a lot of people fall short on. They think it's just work out, and then eat what. No, you've got to get your mind in sync with your exercising. So you've got to be right mentally to process what you're about to do. Okay? And when you get your mind right and you're able to process your day-to-day and set up your day-to-day, then you're able to do the exercise and eat healthy and do the things that's good for you to nourish your body, not just your body with food and water, but mentally. Okay? So you've got to combine that element when you're doing the weight loss or you're trying to gain the weight. Okay? If you're experiencing, as I said, with this regarding your body, if you're having more breakouts on the skin, right, then you have to look at what you're doing different, because if this is something new, then your body it's like an indicator. It's always telling you there's something's up. So when you're having this major breakout, go through what it is you're doing, what you're eating, what you're drinking. Are you sleeping okay? Are you cleaning? Are you changing your pillowcases? Are you stressing about something? You're worrying about something? If things have changed in that space of time when this outbreak or the breakouts have happened on your face, then you can correlate it to the thing that's causing it, and then you can deal with it. You can buy as many potions and lotions, as I always say to people, and spend all this money on these products. But if it's something more than just putting on your face, then you need to deal with it. Deal with the undercurrent, which is what's going on, what's changed in your life, what's happened while you're having these breakouts. And trust me, you will find out what it is. Yeah. So again, those are the solutions. Those are some of the solutions to it. Again, if there's someone around you you can talk to the person. Just explain to them, look, I'm going through something. If they've got ear to hear, then talk. And as I said, if you haven't got anyone around you, then pick up the phone or, go on your phone and look online and get the help you need. Do not suffer in silence. So we want to turn the stress equals health, right? Ill health, to de-stress equals good health, right? So de-stress equal good health, as opposed to stress equals health, ill health. We don't want that. We don't want that. And you don't want that for yourself, okay? So change it, change the equation, change it. It all starts with you and it will always end with you, okay? So if you've enjoyed this topic of conversation, please send me a message. If there's something I've missed out or there's something that you want to continue to discuss in, again, email me through social media, or you can email me at shashalondoninfo@gmail.com. And yeah, we can continue this conversation. And as I said, do not suffer in silence. It's all about you. It begins with you and it will end with you. So get the help you need. Do not suffer alone. And I hope everybody have an amazing week coming ahead. Take care.